Namaste and welcome. I am Gloria Grace Rand, and I am so glad you've joined us for another episode of Live, Love, Engage. And you are going to want to listen and or watch, if you're watching on YouTube, to this one, because I've got an amazing gentleman with us today who is going to be, he has done so much in his life. You're going to really, if you have dreams and you haven't put them into use and really put them into reality, Alan Brown has, and you're going to want to listen to his advice. So let me share with you a little bit about Alan T. Brown. He came from humble beginnings and managed to become wealthy through the power of his mind and limitless optimism. He made his fortune in Colorado and California, turning $12 into $30 million. And today he maintains shopping centers in both states. But that's not all, because Alan never ceases growing and continues his education to this day, from becoming one of the top amateur ballroom dancers to learning classical piano. And he maintains the courage to be curious and, of course, the courage to act on that curiosity, and feels that only the impossible is worthy of his time and mind. So welcome to Live, Love, Engage, Alan. I'm so glad you're here.
Oh.
Well, I want,
okay.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you being here because I epitomize what this podcast is about, which is about being able to help people to live fully. And before we actually started recording, you were sharing with me a little bit about the fact that you are also an author, which I didn't even mention here. You've written a couple books, and one of them is called Dancing Through Life, which I guess is partly, I suppose, comes from the fact that you started ballroom dancing in your 70s, which is amazing. So let me start with actually what pushes you to keep learning and growing and doing things like, taking up the piano now and ballroom dancing, because you're obviously a little bit over 70, I suppose. I'm not going to ask you your age unless you want to share it with our audience.
Well, so you asked what keeps me going, and
Yeah.
I think I tend to surround myself with exceptional people who are going, and it inspires me to keep going. My dance teachers, like one of them is #1 in the world. One of them was in the Dancing with the judge for Dancing with the Stars in New Zealand. So they aspire to amazing achievements, and I take my hat off to them to become #1 as a professional dancer. Those people walk on water. They are so tough. They work so hard. But then I have them as dance teachers, and they work me as hard. So I am, 86 now, but they keep telling me, they grab me by the shirt and say, Alan, you're 39 years old and don't give us any crap. Dance like you're 30, you're gonna think you're like the 39. And they really, an amazing people. And so by surrounding myself with those kind of people, and I see what they've achieved, and quite a few years ago at Vail, Colorado, when Vail was first opening, before it was opened actually. And so I got a chance to meet these investors. I got a chance to go skiing with the guy who was trying to corner the silver market in the world. And then I see Pete Seibert and Vail Associates. I try to go back there every year just to realize I lived there for 11 years. But one man's dream, his desire, was that one day he would have his own ski area. That's all he wanted in life. And so now Vail Associates has grown, and then it's taken over other towns. It's now about 45 miles long in Vail Valley. It's full of skiers, condominiums, golf courses and everything,
Mm.
all from one man's dream. And I was there before they started building, and it was just sheep. There was some cabins there where sheep herders lived. And
Uh-huh.
these people who herd sheep all summer, they lived there in the wintertime. There was really nothing there. And the closest town was, well, like 120 miles away.
Wow.
And so you got the idea that if anything is possible. And while I was there at Eagle, Colorado, I met Leo Hargrave. Leo Hargrave was a plumber, but an interesting plumber. I saw the home he was born in, very, very, very poor. He was the first person to ever graduate from high school from his family.
Mm.
I mean, these people in Denver and the poorest places of Denver.
Mm.
However, here's a guy with nothing, became a plumber, and when he died, he gave some of his friends $1 million.
Wow.
But he taught me to always ask questions.
Mm.
And then one day we're driving along and we look at a tree. I thought it was trees. He asked me what that was. I said, well, that's a tree. He said, well, if dogs were chasing you and you ran up there, what would it be? Well, I would say it'd be an escape. It's protection, it's safety. That's right. And a bird, what does a bird do? It's a bird's nest. If you cut the tree down, you can use the wood to build a house. So he taught me the question, what is it?
Mm.
Now the answer is the big one. It is whatever you want it to be.
Mm.
So if you have a dream and you'd like it turn into reality, you dream it, you see it, you write it down, you write it on a piece of paper. What do you want? What is your image? What are you thinking? And to give you a little example, when I just first learning about this,
Mm-hmm.
the supervisor of one of my apartment complexes, she has an old Volkswagen, and it kept breaking down.
Mm.
And her one goal, she had a little daughter. She says, Alan, I'm getting a little desperate, because I have to go to the grocery store all the time and my car keeps breaking down. I said, look in the magazines, the newspaper, and cut out a picture of the type of car you would like to have.
Mm-hmm.
She did. She put it on the wall. And then just a week later, this happens fast. I'm up there and she says, Mr. Brown, come here. I want to show you something. And she shows me this car, probably 4 years old, but a spotless, beautiful little car. I said, I know you don't have any money. How did you get that car? She said, the guy that repairs my Volkswagen all the time realized the parts in my Volkswagen were worth a lot of money. So he bought me this car.
Oh my
So
goodness.
that if you have a desire and you have a dream, turn it into reality. And like Ken, the sushi guy, where I had sushi yesterday, and he had one of my books, I'm going to give him another book and write on the cover, turning a dream into reality. You have a dream and you want it. You want to achieve it. Write it down, sleep with it, repeat it. You don't have to tell anybody that you want it. You can if you want, if you've got people that would support you. And that's crucial.
Mm-hmm.
You write down your dream. You repeat it over and over. And pretty soon it'll be sitting in your front yard.
Love that.
And that's really, and I refer to them as spiritual advisors. And I keep rereading my own book. I've reread my own book probably 4 times, trying to better understand so I can apply what I did before to tomorrow. And so now I have a player piano here. So I want to become a much better player piano, but my dancing is improving. And Rachel said yesterday, and she was the judge in New Zealand at Dancing with the Stars. She says, I cannot believe how much you have improved in your dancing. And dancing is a tough sport.
Yeah.
But if you have the picture in your mind and you repeat it to yourself over and over again, I want to become a great dancer. And then, so 3 times this cowboy, this farm boy, has been #1 in the world amateur dancer.
Wow.
So I could go on and tell you other stories. And like with Ken, when I see him again, I'm going to give him another one of my books. And on the title, I'm going to write his name as The Man Who Turned a Dream into a Reality. Because he has a famous sushi place where everybody goes there. It's a little pricey, but he serves the best, the freshest food. But at one time, it was just something he wanted to do. So all I could say and tell you is that if you have a desire, and then I might write another book of that first step. How do you make that first step? Well, that isn't interesting because people have fears. And this is a thing you have to overcome, the fear. And I would say the majority of people are handicapped with fear.
Yeah.
And again, you can say I talk to God, to Jesus, whomever. I have spiritual advisors. I talk to them. I have conversations with them. And to give you an idea of how amazing this spiritual forces can help you, a friend of mine at Vail, Colorado, said, Alan, what Vail really needs, I was headmaster at Vail 2 years, and I taught in the public system 2 years. And then one day I finally realized people really appreciate money more so than knowledge. Yeah. And I do. I have a degree from the University of Michigan, and I study, I read. Yeah, and just a little aside, whenever I go out to eat, when I'm alone, I always have a book.
I do that too.
If you're going to feed your body, you have a responsibility to feed your mind. It's hungry. It's very hungry. But a great miracle is that John Cameron said what Vail needs is a good commercial laundry, because, you're 100 miles from Denver, so it's hard to get laundry service, and all these hotels and motels, restaurants needed a good laundry service. So he said that to me, and I thought, well, why not? So I could tell you all the steps of creating this, but I built a commercial laundry in Eagle, or had it built. Leo Hargrave built the building. But in 5 years' time, okay, now here's a guy, no money. And I heard you needed $200,000 to start a laundry. I had $3,000.
Wow.
I borrowed $2,000 from my parents, and then I borrowed $50,000 from SBA, small business. So, but I was still a little short of $200,000. In 5 years' time, don't ask me how I did it, but I was the largest employer. I was the largest property taxpayer in Eagle, the county seat of Eagle, where Vail is. Wow. So I still shake my head. How did I do that with no money? But the truth is, if you have faith, but I talk to my spiritual advisors all the time. I'd have conversations with them just like talking to you. And I remember one time, one of the spiritual advisors said, well, Alan, if I don't know how, I have friends who do know how. They will never disappoint you.
Mm-hmm.
And I still use them today. And I could tell you just what I went through, with the shutdown in the economy, and my
Yeah.
shopping centers are taking a terrible beating.
Right.
But it doesn't make any difference. With faith, with belief, you just keep right on going.
Mm-hmm.
But and don't be afraid. You can't be afraid. It's amazing what you can do. And here I've traveled through, people say, well, you have to work hard. And growing up, I grew up on 1 acre with no running water.
Mm.
And but to give you goodness of maybe my parents, I was maybe only like 6 or 7, and I was driving the tractor. At that time, there's no age requirements. So
Right.
I drove in this great big deep ditch.
Oh boy.
I hung on because I was so little, I couldn't touch the clutch and brake at the same time. I had to
Yeah.
either one goes all the way down to the bottom, and I just hang on. So I just climb out of the big ditch, and go back to playing. And my father comes home, and I show him where this tractor was.
Oh boy.
And he said, okay. So he climbed down in there, got it started, and finally got it out by driving it down the ditch, keep up the ditch in the bottom of the ditch
Oh.
until he found a smaller ditch,
Mm-hmm.
and got it out. And that night I thought, well, what's he going to say
Yeah.
at the dinner table? He didn't say anything.
Hmm. Wow.
Because I was learning.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a discussion one time, my 2 brothers and I and my parents. I remember we were sitting around beside this stove in a house, and there was no heat in it, and upstairs when it's Michigan.
Yeah. Mm.
But we asked them, I still remember our 2 brothers and asking my parents, why do you spank us if you say you don't like to do it?
Yeah.
And they said, we only spank you when you do something that you know you shouldn't do.
Mm.
But that's how we were brought up. If we were doing something and it broke, that's learning, that's going to school.
Yeah, that's true.
So they never complained to us when we broke something or stuff like that, because we were learning. As long as we were learning, we might be complimented, but we would never be punished.
Mm.
So that's added to my life now also, of support people, appreciate them, help people. And the other big thing I can throw in now, look for the good in every day.
Mm.
And look for the good in every person every day. Maybe he just did something totally screwy, but there's probably something you can compliment him for. Wow, I'm talking a lot.
It's okay, because you know what? You had lots of good stuff to say, and it's interesting because I'm actually going through a program right now where I'm learning all about what you were just saying. So it was just confirmation that what I'm learning it works because you're living proof of it. So that's awesome. But I do want to ask you one other question, because you mentioned at the beginning about picking friends and, like, associating with people. So how do you, like, seek a group of friends that are thinking like you do, that are focused on their dreams and making them happen?
Well, that's why I keep rereading my own book, to better understand how have I achieved this. Well, and then I remembered, I had forgotten. When I was just a young kid, I read the Bible twice.
Hmm.
And then when I was still a little kid, they had me teaching Sunday school,
Yeah.
just a little kid. And so I think then that some of those things that I was reading, maybe I didn't understand at the time,
Mm-hmm.
but they did have an effect on me,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm a pretty good guy now. I actually, when I wake up in the morning, and like, I'm not a great throw the Bible around, stuff like that, but you have to help people. And every day when I wake up in the morning, I think, who can I help today?
Mm.
that's because sometimes just saying hello or giving a bum $5,
Mhm.
because it's a small gesture on my part, but it might be a big gesture on his part.
Yeah.
So I'm always trying to do, I guess you could say I'm reverting back to the Bible and things like that of do good, help
Mhm.
people.
Absolutely.
So I try to do that every day. But uh, just in my day, and I cannot, even explain of all these things. But, and here's another little point of belief or having faith.
Mhm.
When I bought some stock, cost me $100,000. Vic Flegler, we played golf all the time up in the by uh, Palm Desert, and he was a very wealthy guy. And he told me, Alan, buy some of this stock. And I had played golf with the CEO of the company, but I said, why, Vic? He said, no, buy it. And then I asked Vic, well, how much do you have in it? He said, well, I got 1.3 million.
Oh,
And that
okay.
night I'm thinking, well, if he's willing to take a chance on 1.3 million, I can take a chance on 100,000.
Right.
Okay, I'm very much a supporter of the Boys and Girls Club.
Mm. Yes,
So
that's a great
I kind of
organization.
made a pledge to them and to me,
Mhm.
I will give them $1 million.
Mm.
So with that $100,000, each year I would take out $100,000 and give it to the Boys Club.
Oh,
Don't forget, I started with 100,000,
right.
but each year I would take out 100,000 and give to the Boys and Girls Club
Mm.
until I had given them $1 million.
Wow.
So where did that money come from? How did I achieve it? And you can talk to all the stockbrokers that you want into life. Is that possible? They say, no, that's not possible.
Yeah.
But it is. The impossible is possible.
Mhm.
And the little thing I later said was that if I would tell my girls in the laundry, if it's impossible, you fix it. And I want to tell you, these are housewives and ranchers' wives. It's amazing what
Yeah.
they did, because this was a big laundry, 2 buildings. I had like 30 employees, but things would break,
Yeah.
always breaking, but
Mhm.
they would fix them. And one day I'm in California playing tennis, and they call me and said, Mr. Brown, we blew the electrical panel off the wall. Now, this is a pretty big electrical panel. I
Mm.
said, oh my God. But then she says, don't worry. We had the laundry working the next day.
Oh,
Here are girls doing the impossible. And I got the point, say, only if it's impossible is it worthy of my time and mind.
mm.
So I say that every day.
Mm.
Only if it's impossible is it worthy of my time and my mind. Because we are such an amazing creation. God did a pretty good job when he created it. And then growth is another word I like, growth. And
Mhm.
I still remember as a little kid when the corn would pop through, crack the earth, and
Yeah.
then we could take a stick and knock the dirt off, and then we could see the corn, the little plant growing up.
Yeah.
And that growth is something that's always been embedded in my mind to to help people grow. That we helped our corn grow because we knew if it grew up, it grew big, we could then feed it to the cattle. But to grow, and if you could help people grow, and just the word, so if they don't know what they want to do, how to do it, just say, just grow, just grow. Go sit down, have a beer, and grow. But
I love
that's
that.
another thing was of just factor growth and belief of that if it's impossible, don't worry about it. Do it anyway. That your spiritual advisors will help you
Mm,
achieve the impossible. And
absolutely.
yeah, they're just amazing. If you have a dream, write it down,
Mm-hmm.
write it down, write it down, and repeat it to yourself every day. The impossible dream. And you can say, well, it's impossible. And don't tell your friends, because your friends will tell you it's impossible. You don't need that kind of that information.
Right.
You are going to do the impossible. And just put in your mind, I enjoy doing the impossible. So if somebody says that is impossible, you say, hey, that's great. Thank you. That's just kind of what I want to do.
I
So
like that.
but there's so many times I have done the impossible, because here is this farm boy for soap. My mother took pig fat and lye and mix it up, and that was our soap.
Oh, yeah.
Times were a little tough. And one of my dreams was, when I was just a little kid, to someday have a pair of pants with no patches.
Yeah. Sure.
That was my dream.
Yeah.
Just and to have socks without darning holes darn. But
Hmm.
to have a pair of pants with no patches. And finally I got older. I was probably maybe 10 years old, and I got a job working for a farmer, and he paid $12. I got a ride out to town, and I bought myself a pair of pants with no patches.
Yay.
So it's, even as a little kid, you just keep repeating it. Pants with no patches, and it will happen. It just, I do it every day. It just, I could just, and some of the things that I just did, just the, with all the, because I own a lot of shopping centers in Colorado and California.
Yeah.
And so I've had things where I had an image, because the tenants can't pay their rent. Well, how do I pay my mortgage?
Yeah.
Well, just dream and write it down. You're going to pay your mortgage, or you're going to find out a way, or
Yeah.
you're going to ask your spiritual advisors,
Mm-hmm. There you go.
and they will give you ideas how you can pay your mortgage.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of knowledge.
It is a lot of knowledge, but it's good information, and that I know everyone is going to appreciate. Um, how can people learn more about you, and maybe learn more about your books? Now I know you said you've written 2 books so far. So what are the
Yeah,
titles of those?
my first one was a book on photography.
Oh,
So
okay.
a simple thing, I wanted to learn to see better.
Mm.
There's no better way than carrying a camera. And it was one of those old type with the cloth over your head.
Oh,
So
yeah. Wow.
figured an hour to take a picture. And then pretty soon I had my own darkroom. I developed my own negatives. I printed my own prints.
Wow.
And then I had a book published, Dominion of Shadow, because really shadow is everything that you see creates a shadow.
Right.
So the shadow is the strong part. The
Mm.
shadow, if it's not creating a shadow, it probably isn't, it doesn't exist. So the dominion of shadow.
Ooh, I like that.
So then the book came along, really, the, the question kept popping up in my mind. I would see all these wealthy people, and I would see that I became very wealthy. And my question was, how did I do it?
Mm-hmm.
Not only how did I do it, but how do I do it?
Mm.
And again, turning into a future tense, how can I do it again?
Right.
So that's what people have to do, is how can I achieve my objectives?
Mm.
And then again, I think writing it out, putting it on the wall,
Mm-hmm.
and repeating it, and then find some good friends that support you. And I hate to tell you this, but I will. The majority will not support you because they're afraid.
Yeah.
They're afraid. And and you will have fears too. Oh God, will you be scared?
Well, yeah, that was one thing I was going to ask you about too, is like, what do you do when I'm sure you have been discouraged or fearful at times? How have you coped with that?
Well, yeah, fear is a thing, and it's a great thing. I use it all the time. Uh, it it helps us think. See, and thinking is the other thing that people don't do too much of. But
Mm-hmm.
if they're afraid of something and they want to overcome it, now that's the thing. The other side, you got to say, well, I'm afraid, but I want to do it anyway. How do you overcome that?
Right.
And that takes a little. I'm not sure of how to do that, but how to overcome fear. But uh, I think desire
Mm.
can overcome most anything.
Yeah.
And if you really desire it enough,
Mm-hmm.
and don't be afraid to write it down. And this is what I used to do when I was a younger guy. I'd keep a notebook and I would write down what I wanted to do and what I would like to do. And then the back 10 pages, I'd keep a paper clip on.
Okay.
These were the stupid, idiotic, impossible dreams. I
Ah,
didn't want anyone to see them.
okay.
They would, really say, well, you can't do that. No,
Yeah.
I didn't want anyone saying that. I want to say, okay, there's a way, there's a will, there's a way.
Absolutely.
Um, so how do you overcome fear? And it's such a big thing, but it's so crucial because it helps us think and make wise decisions.
Right.
If you're afraid to do something, then you think, why am I afraid? So you grow, you have to grow.
Mm.
Um, but fear is a thing. Oh no, some days you just ignore it. Just go and do it anyway.
Mm.
Just do it.
Yeah.
And here is a little example of how that came out of me. I just had apartment buildings. I had like 200 apartments.
Mm.
And I'm walking by this. So I'm walking from my apartments to the hardware store because I needed some parts for my fix something. And then I walk past this. It's a shopping center. And the guy comes out, and there's a restaurant in there. And the guy that had the restaurant comes out and said, Alan, why don't we buy this? It's for sale.
Mm.
I said, okay. And then I went and bought what I had to do and went back to work. And about 2 days later, he grabbed me and said, well, I'm sorry, Alan, I'm not going to do that. That's just too much. I said, okay. So then I called the owner, and now the owner owned 51%. The
Mm.
rest of it was owned by the owner's husband who died, his
Mm.
friend, the lawyers and
Mm.
accountants and all the
Right.
professional people. And they didn't want to sell it. They said it's too valuable. And
Mm.
she kept saying, well, then you buy it.
Mm.
So a
Yeah.
week went by. They didn't step up. So she sold it to me and carried the finance. It was unbelievable, the easy deal. But that 40,000, I think it cost me 40,000.
Uh-huh.
So of course that's all borrowed money.
Yeah.
She loaned me the money. And then I refinanced it, and they said, well, you can take a lot more money out of this. So the money people loaned me an extra $1 million.
Yeah.
That's great. So I bought another apartment building. And then later they condemned the front part and they gave me another $1 million. So I took that $1 million.
Oh my goodness.
But but that 40,000 now, I just had it evaluated. That 40,000 now is worth 13 million.
Wow. Oh my goodness. I think
All
that
because when
investment
I
paid
walked
off.
by, I said, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't ask them how much it cost or anything.
Yeah.
I just said, okay.
Okay.
So I turned maybe I put on 12,000.
Mm.
Maybe I put 12,000 of my own money in.
Yeah.
took out $1 million twice, and now that 12,000 is worth $13 million. So you, okay, and that's the other thing. We all have this feeling of sense when we walk, when something is dangerous, or be
Mm-hmm.
careful or be cautious.
Right.
Our sixth sense,
Yes.
listen to it.
Yeah.
I like to spend a little time every day and listen to what I call them the spirits, whether the spirits talking to me today. And I'll ask them, well, what's cooking today? What should I be thinking about?
Yes.
I talk to those people every day, my spiritual advisors. It just is so amazing because they're your friends. They
Yeah.
will help you achieve those impossible dreams. But
Absolutely.
I call them the SA, the spiritual advisors. I'm writing it right now, SA, spiritual advisors, my friends, my good friends.
Mm.
Yeah. And
That's
so some people could refer to Jesus, to God, to
awesome.
heaven, whatever, but give them a name and let them become your friends. And you become friends with them because they want to become friends with you.
Yeah, I do believe that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got a few more wisdom.
Well, I think we're just about out of time right now, but this has been amazing, and I am so glad that I had a chance to have you on the show and to share your wisdom. And maybe we'll have to have you on again, and because there was more stuff I didn't get a chance to talk to you about. I would still love to find out about the dancing, but I think we're going to save that for another time. So if you would love to come back sometime, I'd love to have you.
So, and as Lil Hargrave taught me, it is whatever you want it to be. It
Okay,
can be hard, it can be difficult, it can be, you choose. And that's
absolutely.
how that plumber guy with a 12th grade education
Yeah,
became a multimillionaire. Amazing what he did. He was kind of my mentor of
mm,
helping me
absolutely.
turn that turn that bird's nest into a house
Yeah,
just by with your mind.
yeah, I
The
like
mind, we got to learn to use our mind. Yeah.
definitely. All right.
So,
Well, thank you so much, Alan, for being on Live, Love, Engage. I really appreciate it. And I hope that the rest of you who are watching and listening, make sure that you subscribe to the show so you can be able to uh, be ready for the next episode to come out, and you'll be able to get some more inspiration from
well,
wonderful.
we can also say is buy my book and look for
Yeah.
the little messages.
Okay.
Look for the little messages and listen to them, seek them. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. I will make sure that I will have a link to your book in the show notes. So people won't even have to go to Amazon to search for it. They'll be able to go right there and they'll get the link to it. So
Okay,
um,
great.
all right. Well, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yes, thank you. And as always, everyone, I encourage you to live fully, love deeply, and engage authentically.
Yeah. And you can always call me and talk to me
All right. Awesome.
anytime. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.